Day one of free agency wasn't active. Day two was. Did the Texans get better? There's a lot of intrigue on both sides of the ball. Did the rich get richer? And did the questionable get even more questionable? Let's feast.
Yeah. It's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time. Can't stop. Won't stop. Yeah, we top two and we not.
Very active day two for the Houston Texans. It is the Locker Room, number one source for Texans digital content. I am Landry Locker. You can see me, hear me here Monday through Friday, 10:30, as well as on SNL Monday through Friday, 4 o'clock. This Friday, join us, Friday Free Agent Frenzy at Spanky, Sharpstown. I can already taste that pizza. I can already taste them wings. I can already feel the happy hour beverage on the lips. Feels so good once it's on the lips. We'll see you at Spanky's. We got giveaways. It's one of two times we're going to be there throughout the offseason. We love spending the offseason with you. It's been fun. There's going to be a lot to talk about. And the roster continues to shape up for the Houston Texans. A little bit of activity today. We'll start with the most polarizing topic on this ball club, and really historically for the Houston Texans, the most polarizing area has been the offensive line. And the offensive line yesterday, very quiet. They did not do anything, and this was a week after trading Titus Howard, but I'll be damned. Today, the Texans sign tackle, we think, Braden Smith from the Indianapolis Colts. They sign him, 2-year deal, $12 million guaranteed. We've already talked about this. And the question becomes, like, what is the role of Braden Smith going to be? Now, naturally, you look at a guy who's been a tackle on the right side for damn near a decade, and you say, okay, well, is this guy going to be the right tackle? But the Texans do have Trent Brown, and they do need a guard. And it was brought up today by Lance Zierlein, the possibility of perhaps Braden Smith playing guard, which my co-host Cody Stoots kind of rolled his eyes at because it's not something he's done in 8 years. And he was also a right guard at Auburn, not a left guard. So I enjoy the hell out of a nice little offensive line debate. I like to watch from afar. Not necessarily my thing to partake in, but I did enjoy it. So I don't mind getting the popcorn ready and checking this out. So this was what Lance Zierlein of NFL Network said when he was drafted, or when he was signed. He said that new Texan Braden Smith took 125 snaps at offensive tackle in college and 2,532 snaps at offensive guard. He came into the draft as a guard, was drafted as a guard, but Indy had a personnel exec who believed he could stay at right tackle after an emergency start versus New England, so they tried it. They successfully transitioned him to tackle in a rare offensive guard to offensive tackle move. The Texans have a hole at left guard and 2 players on their roster to compete at right tackle. So I'm guessing he gets moved back to guard with Houston. Now, the question is this an educated guess? Is this just throwing stuff out? Either way, it's fun. That's kind of what the point of the offseason is. I would say Zierlein is more than capable, beyond capable of having an educated guess, and he lays that out. But the pushback I would have is that, well, I wouldn't say Blake Fisher's competing for anything. I don't think that the Texans want any part of Blake Fisher being a tackle. But the guard thing is interesting, and we'll elaborate on this a little bit. But Zierlein then puts up a picture of Smith, says that he's built more like a guard. He says, since this is a big discussion topic these days, let me remind everyone that Braden Smith has really, really short arms, and he has lean muscle mass, some of the best lean muscle mass you'll ever find. He's built like a guard, and that is his natural position. Hell of a job the Colts did putting him on the outside. And then he also goes on kind of a tangent about how can he possibly play guard? He hasn't played there. Don't make this mistake. He says he wouldn't. And he seems pretty passionate about the notion that Smith is a guard. So that is what Zerline is saying, and that's what his opinion is on the matter. Now, I think there's a couple of ways to look at this. Number one, they definitely need a left guard, but they need a really, really good left guard. They need a good one. Now, he's done it 8 years ago. You're giving the guy $12 million in guaranteed bread, and if you're going to expect him to play guard, it seems a little bit risky. It seems like you could probably invest that money more wisely to guys who are actually playing guard. I get what the data says and I get all that, but perhaps you could do that. On the other hand, maybe it's like riding a bike. Maybe what he used to do, he can just pick up and remember and figure it out. And let's also remember the only left guard they have right now on the roster, or the guy that they've actually put on the field, is Jared Patterson. And we all know that Jared Patterson, while he can be a valuable piece to a roster and provide you with options at the center and guard position, specifically in emergency situations, he's not a guy that starts at left guard. Now, then I started thinking about this a little bit more, and I started texting people that I like to talk ball with, and people that I know follow the Texans very closely. And I started thinking about this because Cody's very adamant that this is going to be your right tackle. It's kind of a platoon between he and Trent Brown, and he's not a guard. And I started thinking about this, and I started thinking about King Cole. All hail King Cole, most powerful man in town.
Pop, lock, and drop it. Pop, lock, and drop it.
Cole Popovich, the offensive line coach. And I started thinking about the offensive line last year. And that last year, I think one of the biggest values that the Texans had was Titus Howard. Wasn't great at guard, wasn't great at tackle, but his versatility and his ability to bump inside and bump outside, it provided the Texans with a lot of flexibility and, quite frankly, the ability to shuffle when they needed to save their ass, regardless of what the reason was or who was hurt. Thought there was some value there. Is it the equivalent of what Cleveland paid? The answer is hell no. But I do wonder if Lance is right and if Cody is right, maybe that means they're just both right. And maybe Smith can kind of be like the new Titus Howard, where you take the best five approach, and if you need him to bump out to the right side because Trent Brown's not available, cool. But if you want to start Trent Brown and you want to start him, you can figure that out as well. It might actually be fun for the guy. I don't know what his mindset is. I don't know how he feels about being a guard. I don't know if it's easy. It's probably easier later on in your career to go from guard to tackle. It might actually be something that he's welcome. But what if all the Titus Howard stuff last year and the value that there was, what if now Smith is the new Titus Howard and both Lance Zierlein and Cody Stoots are correct? So the answer to both of those things could be yes. And maybe this is just a continuation of the best five approach. Now, I think in a perfect world, you would like to get to a place where you just have five guys that are really good and you're not moving around. But let's just also be honest about this. Let's also be honest about this. There's not a perfect world in the NFL when it comes to guys getting hurt and guys getting injured. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. The Texans were a pretty healthy ball club this year, even with the offensive line stuff. Like, relative to the rest of the league and compared to the rest of the league, like, the Texans were a pretty healthy ball club. So maybe this means that the Texans will just be prepared for if the situation presents itself, or maybe they just like the way it went and they like the value that was. And they said, okay, well, this guy could perhaps do that. There's chances sometimes, like in emergency situations, where you have to do wacky shit like that. Like, you remember when Michael Dieter, the first year of CJ Stroud's career, where he had to bump out to like right tackle for a play or something like that? Sometimes you have to do crazy stuff like that. So maybe that's just kind of where things are and where they're going to be. I will throw out the V word in a sec. First, though, let's go to the chat. Shout out to everyone talking about day 2 of free agency here in the locker room.
Swarm.
Flores Jr., appreciate you, my friend, looking sharp in that suit, in the tux, doing your thing. Trucker Cam TX says Townsend goes to the ops, our second MVP last year. I didn't think Tommy Townsend was that good last year. I thought he was okay. I thought there were times where he was good, and I thought there were some times where he was really, really bad. We'll get into that in a second. That one, okay. We'll talk about that in a second. The Texans, I said both sides of the ball, all 3 phases. The Texans made relatively significant moves. So we'll talk about that in a second, the Tommy Townsend situation. Evan on the chat says, so is Benito and Teller off the table draft season? I would say Teller's definitely off the table, I would think. Benito, probably so. But I would say Teller, since he's RG, probably so. But we don't know what their plan is really at guard. What are we doing at center? I think they're going to head into the draft and try to upgrade. I don't think they're overly desperate at the moment for a center. I don't believe they didn't get in that market, and we'll see what they decide. But that would be my guess as to what they do. I'm trying to pull up some punter stuff here, seeing if this will work. Here we go. We're gonna give we'll do a punter side by side. I think this is going to be the first one in show history, which we'll do in a sec. So we'll talk about this punter situation. But the offensive line thing I think is interesting because I think Bill O'Brien back in the day, and I remember when Bill O'Brien kind of called me out for some of the tangents that I would go on about it. I think there's a big difference in versatility when it comes to the offensive line. And I think there's BOB versus POP versatility. Bill O'Brien versus King Cole, a.k.a. Cole Popovich.
Pop, lock, and drop it. Pop, lock, and drop it.
Bill O'Brien he never really got someone who was really good at something. It wasn't really something that Bill O'Brien did. It always seemed like he wanted guys who were mediocre at a lot of stuff, and he never quite got guys together that were just 5 guys that were good at the positions that they played. He just liked guys that could do a lot of stuff and not necessarily a lot of stuff in an overly impressive way. And I think that was the difference between Bill O'Brien versatility and Cole Popovich versatility. I think Cole Popovich values versatility, and I think he's willing to move things around. I like how open-minded he is when it comes to that, but I don't think like when he's drafting a guard, for example, like if he thinks Pregnon is the best guard, and he probably is, he's going to take him. He's not going to sit there and say, well, can he do anything else? He's going to take him. I believe that. So there's a difference between BOB versatility and pop versatility. And I think offensive line versatility is important, but I also think it can be overvalued if the person or the player can't do one thing really, really well, especially if you're talking about your starters. And that's why I had no problem with the Titus Howard trade and getting rid of Titus Howard, because I never thought Titus Howard was really good at anything on the offensive line. I thought he was okay. I thought he was the lows were real low and the highs were okay. But I never thought Titus Howard was just some sort of killer on the offensive line. I never really felt that way. And I never thought that about Titus Howard. So we'll see what happens with this. It is something to monitor at the very least. You have a good platoon at right tackle and a guy who's perhaps better, probably better than Trent Brown at right tackle. And I guess he has this distant experience of playing guard, which whether it's just a conversation talking point from Lance Zierlein or an educated guess, I think it's a good discussion to have. I would say it shouldn't make you feel confident about left guard if you're taking a guy who's been a tackle for 9 years and putting him back there because he played right guard at Auburn and hasn't played it in a long time. I don't think that should be confident. That's not to sit here and say that it's impossible and won't work, but that should not scream confidence when it comes to fixing the offensive line and trying to figure some stuff out. That should not be the case. But I think the Braden Smith signing is solid. I think it adds some depth, and I did not anticipate the controversy that it brought or the discussion, the fun discussion that it brought, but it did, and the Texans addressed something on the offensive line. So when it comes to the glaring need right now at starter, it still remains left guard, regardless of what your plans are for Braden Smith. Like if your plans are to put him at left guard, that could end up being a complete unmitigated disaster. So I would not put too much stock in or feel good about that. But maybe he's the new Titus, as I said. Maybe they're trying to get the versatile to where whenever they play those musical chairs, the guy can go inside and outside. At the very least, in an emergency situation, at least he's got that distant experience. Like when Dari Gumbawale kicked, hey, Dari, do you have any experience kicking? Yes. And then all of a sudden he's kicking field goals, and they basically give him a lifetime contract after that. So that's one move the Texans made today. They finally signed an offensive lineman. I think he's a tackle, but who knows? Lance Zierlein threw that out there. I think it's a fun thing to talk about.
Swarm.
Evan on the chat says, yeah, I don't want Andrews or Patterson. Yeah, no. Yeah, they gotta figure something out there. They'll upgrade. They definitely will in the draft. There will be some selections made in the draft when it comes to that. Something else they did. They gave Ka'imi Fairbairn a little extension. So Ka'imi Fairbairn was signed through 2026. He's now going to be signed through 2028. Ka'imi Fairbairn has saved a lot of asses at NRG, including DeMeco Ryans, including Nick Caley's, and he also used to save Bobby Slowick's. I don't know when Ka'imi Fairbairn is going to yip out, but quite frankly, if it happens, and some of the best kickers of all time, they yip out. Typically, if they fall off, and yip out might not be fair. Maybe their play just declines is a nicer way to say it. We just always kind of expect a lot mentally from the kickers, so we talk about it like golf. But this is not like I think sometimes you have to be proactive with players that take up large amounts of salary when it comes to perhaps forecasting when their play will decline. But with Ka'imi Fairbairn, when it happens, it happens. If it happens. Signing him for 2 extra years, okay. I mean, we'll see what it looks like. You've seen some really, really good kickers fall off around 33. I think Justin Tucker, who had some other stuff going on, Mike Vanderjack are kind of the examples I use. But regardless, it's not something you don't proactively move on from Ka'imi Fairbairn. You ride it out as long as it happens, and whenever you have to make that change, you make that change. But he's still at his best. So they gave him an extension. Okay, cool. He was going to be on the team anyways. He saved a lot of butts. I do wonder where DeMeco and the Texans would be without him. I think they have at least one less division title without Ka'imi Fairbairn, and they have a decent amount of less wins without Fairbairn. He has saved a lot of asses. I think there were some times where they were just settling for 50-yard field goals almost a little bit too comfortably, like not even trying to get closer. The one thing I will say, though, about this Ka'imi Fairbairn thing is that he does get hurt a lot for a kicker. Like if you look at the games missed by Ka'imi Fairbairn, even before like 3-4 years ago, like he does get hurt quite often for a kicker. So as you get older, you start to be a little bit more concerned about soft tissue injuries. Last year, they needed Matt Bryant to kick the game-winning field goal. 2 years before that, they needed Amendola against Cincinnati, the local kid, to kick a game-winning field goal. So DeMeco Ryans has twice as reliable as Kaimi Fairbairn has been. There's been a couple of big games where DeMeco Ryans has had to rely on a kicker off the street. So that's something to keep an eye on. Primetime asks a question and says, do you think Fairbairn can go on a Justin Tucker run? I don't know if that's the best question to ask at the moment. Hopefully he does not go on Justin Tucker runs. But yeah, I would say probably I don't know what that means. I think he's already pretty good. Justin Tucker was elite, and but Justin Tucker fell off. That's another example. At about the age Kaimi will be when this extension starts. You have to do it, though. Again, you have to do it. Whenever he falls off, if it happens, it's something that when it happens, oh well. You don't proactively try to move on from that. So that's where we're at when it comes to the Kaimi Fairbairn situation and where that goes. Something interesting that happened this morning. I don't know if y'all saw this, and be sure to like the video, subscribe, right along, all that jazz. But Adam Schefter this morning, he put out the headline and put out the tweet that the NFL had rejected the Texans extensions for Hunter and Schultz. The Texans replied to, I think, Florio in Pro Football Talk and basically said it was a semantic thing. And then Adam Schefter deletes the tweet. And shortly after that, the deals get finalized. Here's my prediction. Ian Rappaport gets the Texans stories from here on out. It's going to be Ian Rappaport. It's going to be Diana Rossini. Some would say it already was. But I know kind of how the process can go whenever organizations get pissed off at stuff like this. And I can assure you, Adam Schefter got a text and they were basically like, what the hell was this? I did ask Texans Cap at Texans Cap on Twitter, my boy Troy, and he said this happens typically a couple times a year. And it wasn't that big of a deal, but you saw Schefter put it out there. The headlines looked weird. Ain't even going to lie. You look at what it says and how they said it, and it's like, whoa, that's not great. And then you actually find out what happens, and it wasn't that big of a deal. So Schefter, yeah, not a great go for him, and I'm sure they were very, very pissed off at him. The Texans also today, they signed a linebacker in Jake Hummel. This is a special teamer. Last year they broke bread for Nick Neiman, and that did not go overly great. For the Texans. Didn't even make the roster. So this is just basically going to be a special team guy who may or may not make the team. He was with the Rams, and then he was with the Ravens last year. Nothing too crazy out of him or expected from old Nick Neiman. So that our old Mr. Hummel. So yeah, that's just kind of a blah move. The most intriguing, there's two really, really interesting moves that the Texans made. And shout out to Paulie Young and the new K. Appreciate you for rolling through. But I'm very intrigued by this Logan Hall signing. Logan Hall is an interesting player because he's really, really tall, and he's a guy who can line up outside. He can line up inside. He was a second-round pick out of U of H. couple years ago, he had 5.5 sacks. So he's been a rotational player in Tampa Bay. You play for a really good defensive coach in Tampa Bay, Todd Bowles, who I have a lot of admiration and respect for. And it's a guy who's right now, I think he's 25 years old. He's going to be 25 when the season starts. And I think he can be a rotational guy on this D-line. Now, this is the type of move I like because for a couple of years now, it almost feels like DeMeco Autry was having to use icy hot Bengay, whatever he needed to get ready. It felt like you couldn't really depend on him. And quite frankly, there were some nice stretches and there were some times where he had good games, but it was very expensive. It was taking up a decent amount of the salary cap, and there was no real long-term potential with him. I think Logan Hall is a guy that may be able to benefit from the DeMeco Ryans magic dust. And I point to Tommy Togiai, who was, when he started coming around for the Texans, he was 25 years old too. And he didn't really even have as good of a body of work. He didn't have as good of a body of work as an NFL player as Logan Hall does. And Logan Hall, it's not crazy. It's not crazy production, but he's done more and he's been in a rotation more than Tommy Togiai was. And Tommy Togiai is a really good player. Tommy Togiai is going to turn 26, I think, during the season, 26 or 27. So when I see a guy like Logan Hall, who has talent, who has potential, who provides kind of a unique role for what he's able to do. He can line up inside. He can line up outside. I get excited about this, especially with DeMeco Ryans and Rod Wright and Matt Burke and their ability to develop guys. And I look at this as kind of like a versatile Tommy Togiai type of role. And I think we can say that DeMeco Autry is probably done. We can remember DeMeco Autry like we do every single player when they leave. This was a guy who they signed for a large amount of money in his mid-30s. Nick Caserio spoke glowingly of him, had some good moments, got suspended for PEDs, and then he was basically fighting each week to be able to play. There were times where you didn't even practice during the week, which was fine. And there were some good stretches, but it was time to move on, and they moved on, and they brought in a low-risk, high-reward player, which is kind of the thing that I like to see DeMeco Ryans and company do, because I think they have a really, really good ability to be able to develop guys like this, and I think it's exciting and fun to see. So maybe the DeMeco Magic Dust works on Logan Hall. I like what the Texans have done on defense. I think I can 100% say the defense has gotten better. Now, some will say, well, what about the offense? That's probably where they're going to focus a lot of their attention in the draft, although I still think they're going to be open to defense. But just go all in on the superpower. I think Blankenship is a solid player, beyond solid player, that fits in well with what they want to do at safety. We've talked about this, how much they've invested in safety the last couple of years and how much they value it. So they bring him in. I think that's a nice mix. And I think the DeMeco Magic Dust with Logan Hall might be just what the doctor ordered. And if you can do with Logan Hall what you did to Tommy Togiai, you have a guy wreaking havoc in the middle, two guys wreaking havoc on the edge, and then a guy that's able to do whatever he needs to do. And you also brought back Sheldon Rankins. So the defense has 100% gotten better. And if this defense gets better, that's kind of a scary thought. And that's not even factoring in the guys on the defense who may continue to progress and have their best ball ahead of them. So I like the Hall signing. I like the Blankenship signing. I think it's been very smart money, what they've done on defense. On offense, there's a lot of question marks as to whether the offense has gotten better in a short time. The biggest opportunity for this offense to improve is a long time away. It's over a month and a half away. But you added David Montgomery. That's an upgrade over Nick Chubb. Joe Mixon, I don't even count. and then you got rid of Titus Howard and you're bringing in. So the offensive line, you don't really say you're bringing in Smith. You don't really say that it's better or gotten better. But there's potential. And again, it's going to go all down to the, it's going to be all about the quarterback for sure. When it comes to what the Texans do, and decide to do on the O-line, which is everybody's favorite topic for this organization. So those are the two phases that we saw today. They had offensive player in Smith. They had a couple of defensive players. Blankenship was last night. We talked about that. Big fan of that move. And then they made a trade for a punter. They traded for Saints punter Kai Kroger. Kruger, I don't know how he pronounces his name. If he makes the team, we'll figure it out. It was a 6th and 7th swap in 2028. He sucked last year when you look at the stats. I'm not even gonna lie to you. When you look at this side by side, not great from him last year. There's literally nothing that he did better than Tommy Townsend when you look at the comps and just the body of work. And Tommy Townsend has a larger body of work as well. So it doesn't look fantastic. Now, I had kind of forgotten about this. But I actually watched this guy punt in last year, and he was here for mini camp. And I'm not going to lie, he was actually kind of booming it in practice. I remember this now. Now it's not even listed on his experience, but I remember the left-footed punter being out here, and I'm not going to lie, he was actually kind of booming it. And I think I actually even tweeted it. I know Texans Cap dug up the tweet when we were out on the field watching it. But yeah, the guy was actually kind of booming it in practice. Now maybe he's just not a game player.
We in here talking about practice.
Maybe there's something Frank Ross liked. Quite frankly, it was pretty easy to like the way he was booming it, because he was definitely booming it in the mini camp. So I don't know if they're gonna trust this guy to punt for them next year. Tommy Townsend, pretty expensive. There did feel like there were some highs with Tommy Townsend, but it also felt like there was a lot of shank factor with it. But this does feel like they're at least open to moving on from Tommy Townsend. So chances are pretty decent that the Texans are going to have a different punter in 2026. So I don't know how that's going to work out. And Kayami Fairbairn will have a new holder too, which I don't think is the biggest deal, but he'll have a new holder. Sometimes it is for a kicker, but there you go. So Kayami Fairbairn gets extended. There's no John Weeks, and Tommy Townsend, pour one out for him. So he's he gone, and I guess Tommy Townsend is now a Titan. So bye Tommy. How much money did Tommy Townsend get? That feels like something that Aaron Wilson would really, really, really dive into. He's very obsessed with the Drew Rosenhaus factor of this. Let's see what the Alpha thinks. I guarantee he's on this Tommy Townsend.
Hey, bro. Alpha Aaron here.
He's been tweeting out contracts like crazy. He's tweeting out the contracts. Tommy Townsend. Yeah, I don't have the deal. Y'all might actually have the deal. I don't really pay a lot of attention to but there you go. Look at that. Adam Schefter. 820. Okay, so it was while I was preparing for the show. Here we go. Learn something new every day. We knew this was the case. Maybe they knew this. Maybe they knew. Maybe Tommy Townsend had told them that he would go on. But there you go. So he gets a 2-year deal worth up to $6 million per Drew Rosenhaus. And Drew Rosenhaus and Schefter. Man, the Alpha didn't even get that. How about that? All that time he spent chatting with Tommy at his locker, and the Alpha didn't get it.
Hey, bro. Alpha Aaron here.
Adam Schefter be buying those stories from Drew Rosenhaus. Yeah, Tommy Townsend. We hardly knew you, my man. Highs and lows. Highs and lows. Still, I think the best punter in the last few years, and I think y'all might agree with this. I thought Cam Johnston just boomed it for a while. He started getting hurt a lot, though. But Cam Johnston, the Bill Burr lookalike, that mofo used to just absolutely boom it whenever it came off his foot. It was just a thing of beauty. Thing of beauty. So to go back to day 2 and talk about what was accomplished, and that's always the question that we like to ask, like after each day of the off season. I would say you made your defense better. Your punting got a little bit questionable. You locked up your kicker because you got to ride that out as long as you can. And you at least added a capable body on the offensive line. What that looks like, whether he starts, whether there's like a versatile, like under the radar factor, TBD. But you added bodies, and quite frankly, you need capable bodies on the offensive line. So that's what they did. And it's really kind of the epitome of the DeMeco no experience, where the defense, it continues to get better, and the offense, you have question marks. Even in the best of times, you have question marks, and you have a healthy amount of skepticism with the offense. That's just kind of the DeMeco. That's just kind of life with the defensive-minded coach like DeMeco. And maybe the superpower overcomes it, but that is the life that they've chosen, and that is the life that they live, and we will see what it looks like when they try to figure out what they're doing on offense. So that's what the Texans accomplished today. I feel like there are a couple of lessons being kind of practiced early on in free agency from last year that maybe the Texans are taking a close look at, and maybe it's kind of factoring in to how the Texans work and how they try to function. I think number one is that emergency offensive line situations happen. Like if there is some sort of factor where they think in an emergency situation or in a long shot situation where he can start, the Titus Howard stuff last year should have at least taught them that having someone who can move all the way around is valuable, and someone who can be serviceable in that area. So maybe that's why they made this move. Lesson 2 is playing with fire at safety is scary. Miles Bryant starting at safety last year, kind of scary. Wasn't great. They dodged a bullet a couple of times. They also tried multiple times to address that safety position. Jimmy Ward didn't work out because he got hurt. CJ Gardner-Johnson didn't work out because he wasn't a fit, and he's a little bit crazy. So they weren't going to neglect that. They also saw what happened with Jalen Reed, and Jalen Reed, quite frankly, not being able to be healthy. Not his fault, but it's reality. He put them in a position to where they had to live that Miles Bryant life. So the Blankenship signing actually makes a lot of sense. And if you listen or watch this show, and if you don't, then I appreciate you for being here for the first time and checking in the offseason. But we've been talking about the safety position and that they would be proactive. And I thought they did a good job with that. And I think even though they got away with it at times last year, they need a safety who can swarm and kind of play off the surroundings and make some plays. Lesson 3 that perhaps is being practiced is trading high-priced offensive linemen doesn't mean that you're going to fall off on the offensive line. King Cole Popovich.
Pop, lock, and drop it. Pop, lock, and drop it.
He said this, or he made this the Laramie Tunsil trade, or he signed off on it, however you want to look at it. And Texans didn't regret it last year. The offensive line got better. And Titus Howard, okay, they let him go. That's kind of they kind of deja vu'd that, where they traded him and then they gave Danielle Hunter an extension, much like they did with Tunsil. So those are the 3 lessons that I think they're practicing right now with the with what they're doing with the moves that they've made. Something else that might be sad. One of the most amusing guys on this roster, definitely not one of the most entertaining, but I think one of the most amusing guys, just because he's such a old man, like old man energy. I think he's provided the Texans with a lot. Derek Barnett. I don't know if we're gonna have to do this or not. Maybe there's a scenario where Derek Barnett ends up here some way or another. We don't know what's going to happen with Derek Barnett. He's getting a little bit older. Hell, he might have signed a contract while I was playing with my daughter's stuff as well. No, we don't have anything on Derek Barnett. But if Derek Barnett is leaving us, I'm going to say this. What a hell of a find that is. And this goes back to why I like the Texans kicking tires on guys that are young. Derek Barnett had torn his ACL. He was a first-round pick in Philadelphia. He was on the market, and they randomly inserted Derek Barnett into the lineup in 2023. And when he really burst on the scene, it was against the Tennessee Titans in the game in which Case Keenum started, and the Texans ended up winning. Fairbairn, by the way, big bailout in that. We'll get to the bailouts in a sec. I enjoyed my interaction with old Nick Cayley about being bailed out by the kicker as an OC. Nick. But Derek Barnett was a guy that came out of nowhere. They got the most out of him. And quite frankly, they gave him consecutive 1-year deals, and he never really disappointed. And if Derek Barnett, if he never plays for the Texans again, I think he's going to go down as one of those examples that we point to whenever they're bringing guys in off the street that is kind of like the epitome of what you want and what you got to see. Now, Tommy Togiai has taken it to a whole nother level as far as being young, but Derek Barnett was one of those guys that just, I think he worked his ass off to be ready to go. And every time he went out there, he just had that grown man strength. I remember him last year when he came back, when Ariante Airstreet was having a decent camp, he was just grown man strength in him and just taking him on the block. You ever play like an OG in basketball? Like a dude that looks like it's basically going out there. He's got like the cargo shorts on. He's wearing like some low tops. And then all of a sudden he gets on the court and he's just showing off that grown man strength. That is what Derek Barnett was. That's what he was. Someone says, hey, from Malaysia. Shout out to you, my friend. Shout out to Malaysia. So we got UK and Malaysia in the building. That is not a bad thing. But shout out to Derek Barnett. I really enjoy him, and I enjoy these types of moves like the Logan Halls, the Togiais. Logan Hall's kind of like the Togiai 2.0 in a different way. Same age, same type of vibe, some upside.
Swarm.
Nomad_Scott. He says, best part of Aaron Wilson YouTube is him using his mobile to record his TV, airing his appearance on KPRC while hearing him breathe in the background. Shout out to the Alpha. He does.
Hey, bro. Alpha Aaron
He
here.
does need to get some rest, though, man. He does need to get some rest. The alpha needs to. He needs to get him like some acupuncture or something like that. Figure something out. Just relax. Put the phone out. Just boom. You should have seen it one time with the alpha. This is one of my favorite things. The alpha was when the Verizon had like the shutdown. Man, I thought my he was shaking. He was shaking like a salt shaker. Just looking crazy. He couldn't be without the phone. So I wanted to touch on this because I think people kind of miss the reality of something that happens. That I think like there's a lot of water carriers when it comes to Landry Tunsil, and I kind of roll my eyes. Like I think Landry Tunsil's a good player. I think Landry Tunsil's a really, really good left tackle, and I think the Texans still overpaid for him in the trade, and I don't think he really made anyone else better along the offensive line. I don't believe that, and I don't think he necessarily makes your team better once you start paying him. But I saw that Landry Tunsil for the third time became the highest paid O lineman in the league. I think the number was like first 20, first 25, first 30, or whatever like that. And it's almost being pointed to as like a victory lap to show what the greatness is of Landry Tunsil. And man, this guy's so good. And this guy, he really knows how to do business. And Landry Tunsil's great, all that. There's something that people don't really bring up when it comes to the Landry Tunsil thing. I think he's a great businessman. I would agree. I think he is able to move the way that he moves because he is so gifted and he is so talented. I don't think all offensive linemen can do that. So I'm not trying to take anything away from Landry Tunsil. I just don't think that's a measurement of how great Landry Tunsil is. I think it's actually luck with Landry Tunsil. It's not rewarding him because he is the best, because the highest pay doesn't always necessarily mean the best. Because if you look at all three of these contracts, they all three have something in common when it comes to Landry Tunsil. They were all with rookie quarterbacks. Think about it. Rookie quarterbacks, that's where you're willing to spend more money. That's where you're willing to throw more money at guys. You think Wan'Dale Robinson is a $20+ million receiver in like a normal world? No, he knows Brian Dable, and he's playing with a rookie quarterback. Landry Tunsil was traded for when Deshaun Watson was on his rookie contract. Deshaun Watson ended up falling off, and then Landry Tunsil got paid when CJ was here on his rookie contract, and then the Texans traded him to Washington, where Jaden Daniels was on his rookie contract. So that has as much to do with it as anything. It's actually kind of a favorable thing for Landry Tunsil in that he's always found himself on teams with rookie quarterbacks and on the contracts, and he actually did it twice with the Texans. So that was a lucky break for him, and good for LT when it comes to that. So Kaimi Fairbairn, we know he had a record-setting year last year. That's not good. You like that he's capable. You like him to be able to bail you out when he does bail you out. But I asked Nick Caley, and this was early in the year, about Kaimi bailing him out and how that makes an offensive coordinator who's in charge of scoring touchdowns, not kicking field goals, and if that kind of makes you feel some type of way. Here was the interaction with Nick Caley when I asked him about that.
Kaimi's had obviously a record-setting season, but the last time that a game was played on this field, you saw the wacky stuff that happened with kickers. Is there like you kind of want to avoid putting it in the kicker's foot in a situation like this?
I mean, I have a lot of faith in Amy. Obviously, the perfect thing is we'd like to score touchdowns every single time. Obviously, got a lot of faith in him. I mean, he's made big kicks. And I'm I have all the faith in the world in Amy. I would obviously like to just finish with touchdowns every single time. That's the easy, simple, obvious answer. So if we could do that, that would be great.
I'm not being trite. Is it, as an offensive coordinator, when you see a kicker have the record for most field goals in the season, is it kind of like, damn, like, how does that hit you?
I'm thankful we have him. I'm thankful that we have him. He's come through for us. I've told him a couple times, man, I wish I would have, we could have not had you have to go back quite as far on some of these. But, obviously it's a team sport, and we always want to finish with 7. But I also know we have a great kicker in him too. And I mean, honestly, he's amazing, and he's had a great year, and he's helped our team so much. And I'm thankful that we have him.
They got to improve in the red zone. And that starts with a number of things. I think you did a good job of bringing in a running back who knows what he's doing there. You got to get better on the interior. Haven't necessarily done that yet. You still have question mark about Jake Andrews, and you have question mark about the left guard, especially if you're going to be having someone play guard for the first time in nearly a decade, which was the guard controversy, which we started this version of the program with. And then you probably need better tight end play, whether it's blocking, whether it's receiving. You need that. I'm not going to go on the rant that I've been going on. I think I made myself very clear. Tight end 2 needs to be better. The version of Cade Stover that you got last year should not be on the football field. Maybe shouldn't even be active. Like, you should improve your tight end room to where the guy's not even active if he is on the roster, quite frankly. Now, if a better version appears next year, cool. But that version, that ball player that was out there for 40% of the snaps when he was available, you can't put him on a football field and expect to be good in the red zone and expect to have a good offense. Can't do that. 40% of the time, that's not going to fly. So it starts there, and then maybe you get some weapons. I think Eli Stowers is one of the most intriguing players. I wonder if they even entertain the possibility of that. But I think if you're looking for playmakers, explosiveness, all that, they need some guys that have some upside and some speed. They're not fast. Dalton Schultz isn't fast. You get Eli Stowers running in the middle of the field, going in motion, in the red zone, all that. You have a whole new element and something that defenses have to pay attention to. Think about that. Dalton Schultz going out, Eli Stowers in motion. You got to pay attention to that. I think he's a top 40 pick. They have 2 picks in the top 40. I think Sam Roush out of Stanford's good. I would take both tight ends. I would go New England. The Texans copy the Patriots anyways, right? Draft 2 tight ends. You drafted Gronk and you drafted Aaron Hernandez. Draft 2 tight ends. Draft Roush and Stowers, and let's go. You draft an offensive lineman before that. Pregnon can be the first pick. But if Stowers is there at 38, boom, there you go. Pregnon, Stowers, and then Roush a little bit later, even 2 picks later. Who knows? And you got some intrigue. You can figure some stuff out, fill out holes in between. Got to improve in the red zone. Got to improve at tight end. Non-negotiable. Non-negotiable. I said I wasn't going to go on that rant. Just can't help myself. What is the best move the Texans have made up to this point in free agency? We're 2 days in free agency. I can't tell whether it feels like it's been longer or shorter, but 2 days. Very quiet day, pretty active day today in a number of ways. Where have the Texans made the best decision? What is the best move? Or moves. We can go moves. What are the best moves that the Texans have made in this stretch? I think Blankenship was a really good move. I think Hall was a really, really good move. Both defensive guys. I think you can make a case the Montgomery move was okay, although that's not kind of in this 2-day window. I think the best moves they made have been on defense. Do with that what you will. Worst moves that the Texans have made. The extensions seem kind of weird to me, but it is what it is. I think the Dalton Schultz extension was kind of suspect. The 2 best years that you've gotten with Dalton Schultz have been in contract years. I look at picking up the 3rd year of that previous contract as kind of a reward, but we'll see how that ages. The Fairbairn thing, who knows how it ages? Daniil Hunter, whatever. We can argue about that. The Schultz one seemed A little bit interesting, although some people say that was the best thing that they did. It's the beauty of it. Don't have to agree. Just seemed a little bit interesting. But the best moves remain on defense. The best moves remain on defense. So yeah, there they go, and we'll see what they do tomorrow. I think it's probably going to be a little bit quiet, but it's not going to be quiet Friday at Spanky's. See you there, the 13th, Friday the 13th. Get wacky. Probably going to do the first SNL. Mock draft, but I don't know. That's kind of a thing. Ed says Akeem Messidor is someone that he might like in the first as a DN. I don't know if you care about the age, but he is going to be 25 years old when the draft rolls around. I don't know if you care. Some people do, some people don't. But he's going to be 25 years old when the draft rolls around. He'll be older than Will Anderson, I think, and CJ Stroud. So cool. I guess he's a vet, but 25 years old. Let's look at, I want to do this for the sake of entertainment, because the Texans have a relatively young roster in some areas. Here we go. So we'll go age. So Messidor is ESPN. April 5th is when he turns 25. So he's older than Blake Fisher. He's older than Higgins. He's older than Knoll. He's older than Ursery. He's older than Kelly. He's older than Lachey. He's older than Stroud. I guess Will Anderson. Oh, that's just offense right there. That's just offense. So he's older than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, at least 8 guys on offense. And then on defense, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at least 6, including he's older than Derek Stingley. Think about that. He's older than Derek Stingley. He's older than Will Anderson. He's older than Kamari Lassiter. He's older than Bullock and Jalen Reed. He's older than Derek Stingley. That's insane. So, yeah, I guess you like Messidor. It's fine. Another interesting nugget about him, he actually played for Rod Wright, the Texans D-line coach at Miami when Rod Wright was coaching DNs. So, yeah, I like Messidor as a player. I don't know whether it matters or not. Some don't really care. I know Woody Marks was like 24. But, yeah, he's 20. He's going to be 25 years old. So that's kind of wild when you actually think about it. Maybe that means he falls down a little bit. I don't know. Appreciate everyone for rolling through. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like. Be sure to ride along. Be sure to enjoy the hell out of this ride, guys. Like, when I say we're all in this together, we are. It's the point is, when I say that, there have been some shit years where I've covered this squad. It's been over a decade where I've covered this squad. That's what I've done. But the thing that y'all have noticed is whether it's Lovie Smith, whether it's David Coley, it's the same energy. When I was on the radio, I started this channel during the Lovie Smith era when I was finally allowed to. The new program director allowed me to do it. It was in my contract, and I was doing this for 2 years. One of which was with Lovie Smith. Every day at 10:30, multiple times, sometimes, I was doing this. So it's not like when I say we're all in it together, no matter what happens, we're following the squad. Whether you're upset, whether you're happy, whatever, it's there. And I think it's a fun time. I think football is one of the best routines that there is. I think it provides a lot of happiness for a lot of people, and I very much enjoy doing it. So I appreciate y'all for rolling through. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like. Be sure to ride along, and be sure to always remember when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. SNL tomorrow at 4. See you at Spanky's on Friday. Appreciate y'all for watching.
Top 2 and we not too plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up. We number 1. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too.